The time is 6:32 and we will call the regular Board of Education meeting to order and have roll call, please.
Knight,
Here.
Walker,
Here.
Frisbee,
Here.
Maycumber, Here.
Agenda item 2 is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any additions or corrections, Dr. Cox?
No.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. Roll call vote, please.
Frisbee,
Yes.
Maycumber.
Yes.
Wintering.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Knight.
Yes, motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 3 is to welcome the visitors and ask for public comment. As we begin our agenda tonight, I'll explain our process for public comment. The board will hear comments from the public in conjunction with each agenda item using a structured process. As board president, I will ask for comments when we reach that item on the agenda. You will be asked to approach the microphone, state your name, and limit your comments to 2 minutes. At this time, I invite any member of the audience to step up to the microphone with comments about items of interest or concern that do not appear on tonight's agenda. Please begin by stating your name and contact information. It would be appreciated if you would limit your comments to 2 minutes so that we can keep the meeting moving in a timely fashion and allow others an opportunity to speak, as well as allowing the board to complete the full board agenda in a timely manner. Comments from the public are limited to matters within the board's authority. Please understand that we as a board cannot discuss items not already on the agenda. Iowa's Sunshine Law prohibits us from having a discussion without the proper notice to all of the school district community that the issue would be discussed at tonight's board meeting. Also, please remember, you are making comments in a public meeting. Should you make comments that the subject of the comments considers to be inflammatory or libelous, you as an individual may be subject to legal action brought by the subject of your comments. We thank you for your support of our community school district, and at this time we'll take comments from the public. Hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item 4, comments by board members and superintendent. As always, we'll start off with Dr. Cox, and I'm sure he has lots of information about what a great time it is to be a Comet again.
It has been a great weekend to be a Comet. Good lead in. We sent 6 wrestlers to the state tournament in Des Moines. Austin Stout took 3rd place. Max Forsyth and Nick Jacobs placed 4th. Our choral reading group performed at the All-State Speech Festival in Ames over the weekend. And the audience, they had them laughing the whole time. A very enjoyable performance. Earlier today, Macy Ross became the Class 1A Girls Bowling State Champion. And the girls' team finished 3rd overall, and the boys finished 4th overall. So a lot of great things going on for our Comets. We had a blizzard on February the 8th that caused us to miss our 3rd day of school this year. We already had converted February 15th and April 27th to school days due to the snowstorm we had the week prior. So our final day of school now will be June 3rd. Dismissal at 11:40, 11:45, and 11:50 like it would have been on June 2nd. Teacher work day that afternoon. Then teachers will engage in professional learning June 6th and 7th, and our support staff, the 180-day support staff, will attend on June 6th only. As a result of that STEM Best grant that you've heard me talk about quite a bit, that we were awarded last October, I've been invited to serve on a panel at the Governor's 2016 Future Ready Iowa Summit in Des Moines, and that's on Tuesday, April the 19th. It's an all-day summit, and they are hoping to get 1,000 people to attend this. It's open to the public. So Governor Branstad and Lieutenant Governor Reynolds are hoping to get a cross-section of Iowans from business and labor, nonprofit leaders, educators, students, parents, and then local and state policymakers. And then in addition, later that week, Lieutenant Governor Kim Reynolds plans to visit Charles City High School on Friday, April 22nd as part of her statewide STEM tour. And then lastly, I'm sure we'll have some comment from board members. President Dite, Directors Maycumber and Walker, our Chamber Director, Mark Wicks, Justin DeVore, and I headed to the Capitol to lobby for education last Thursday. And we met with 17 representatives and senators, Republicans and Democrats alike. The general consensus is that the House and Senate likely will settle somewhere between 2 and 2.45% for supplemental state aid.
Thank you. Any board members with comments?
I want to start by saying thank you, Caldwell, for hosting us tonight. In the community of Caldwell, you much are important of the Charles City School District as any other community. And we're pleased and very proud to be here tonight to have our meeting here with you. I'll just mention a little bit about the Capitol, my take on it. I come away with a lot more this time than I did the first time. I think some of it was just the fact that this experience was, I was more experienced, was more willing to ask some questions. I know previous to us going, there had been some question as to what do you expect to get out of this? What do you expect to happen? And I didn't have an answer at that time, but I do have an answer now. And that is exactly what I came back with, an understanding of what they're thinking, of what their thought process is, the ability to talk to the senators and representatives and see why it is they're standing with what they are standing with, or why they're focusing on what they're focusing, and what it takes to actually, if we want to go a certain way, all the juggling it takes with all the different committees. And it was wonderful to be able to talk to those individuals, the heads of some of those committees and hear their viewpoint.
Just building on that, I was impressed with the number of representatives and senators that remembered us from last year and remembered the impression that we had left last year. So I think that building on that again this year helps our school district leave an impression statewide and certainly at the Capitol, which is a pretty important place to leave a good perception. So generally a good trip. You know, last year I kind of said, I think we all said that our trip was a failure for the most part. We got nothing that we asked for or wanted down there, but going back this year, it kind of builds on that. And like I said, to see that they remember us and that we left an impression is kind of, okay, well, we didn't fail. We did accomplish something, so.
But we did talk about the SAVE, because they were asking us questions
Yeah,
about the SAVE.
you know, we talked a lot about state supplemental aid, but we also talked about other policy type things that you know, is important to our district, and the primary one was the statewide penny sales tax that is financing a significant portion of our new building. You know, that's a hot topic right now, extending it from 2029 to 2049, which would again be very important to the future of our school district potentially, and other projects that we may do down the road. Yeah, it was welcoming for them to ask us a number of questions of, well, these proposals are out there, what do you think about them, type of thing. How does it impact your district? We were able to stand up and use our district as a shining statewide example of how we're using it, using the money. There's a number of negative comments about some districts building big extravagant sports complexes and people not caring for that. And I said, well, we were able to point to our district and say, hey, we're doing it the way we feel is right, and it's really fitting for our district in a very positive way. So again, our trip was, even last year, I see now was not a failure. I think this year we built on that, and hopefully going forward we continue that.
Well, it's on. Maybe it doesn't need to be on. Thank you for going. As you know, I was disappointed I couldn't join this year, but you know, to take your time out and Mark Wicks in the community, it's a big deal to take that whole day and go down and work as hard as you do and talking to all of these folks. And you know, you guys are very good advocates for the school district and for the students and teachers. And as we round the corner to, you know, what is looming here with our budget, you know, I think, you know, we've given it our best shot here to do what we can to get the most that we can for our schools.
You have anything, Jim?
Yeah, not so much on going to Des Moines, but I've had 3 different parties contact me the last 4 or 5 days, and one of them happened to go on a tour of the new facility with Mr. I don't know if he went with Josh or Larry, but they went on a tour through the new building, and they come out and he said, when I walked out of the building, I had that wow, and that's what we had talked about earlier. We want people to have that kind of impression. And he said, I just can't believe the quality. I mean, he knows quite a bit about construction too. He said the quality of construction work that they're doing, and just the uniqueness of the floor plan and the whole work. Just wow.
Good.
3 people called me specifically for that. So.
Cool.
That's good to hear.
In the last week. So, and he encourages anybody that can possibly get a tour through it to go through it now while they're still in the process of closing everything in, because then you get to see what substructurally looks like too.
Cool.
I just had that conversation 30 minutes ago at the gas station. Someone had pulled up and was commenting about the new school. He had just been through the building too and mentioned the wow factor.
Cool.
People are
good to hear.
impressed at the structure we're building. I think people were under the impression that we were gonna build some little piggy stick house. We're not. We're building a very quality, long-term, safe school for our kids.
So it's very positive.
Good.
That's good to hear. Good to hear. I'll just finish up by agreeing the trip to Des Moines was a rather quick one, leaving at 6 a.m. and being back by 3. But the experience, meeting with the legislators and having conversation with them is rewarding. And I agree that we've gone a long ways. I felt last year like we had failed and got nowhere, but the Iowa Association of School Boards picked up on our trip, you know, and organized an entire state trip this year, and other districts have picked up on that. We had 2 people from Osage that had met us down there and talked to representatives as well, and they did remember us, and they did have more of a conversation this year than last year. So moving forward, doing it again, we need to set that date in November, not 2 weeks before we go, and have an opportunity for other districts to attend with us and other people, and get a little more organized as far as our support groups go for education. We may be the leaders of the education in our community, but it takes a community to make a school district, and if we organize early, we can have that support from the entire community with this legislature. So it was very rewarding.
So I'll share one more thing that you 5 don't know. So I went to Altoona after we had our lobbying experience to speak at that superintendent's class, and 4 superintendents, a finance class, and one of the instructors who had put together the group that came over that morning as well had heard about the giant packet that we had put together and all the materials, and wanted to see that, and gushed about the fact that we were so organized at what we had done. Another superintendent that I was visiting with said, wow, I can't even get my board members to go to a regional meeting that's just down the road. I'm really impressed that you have board members who are willing to go all the way to Des Moines to do that. You're really lucky. So I just want you to know that you're also leaders in the state when it comes to this, that you're the exception, you're not the rule. Very few boards have exhibited, especially outside of the Des Moines metro, you know, to get up and be on the road by 6 a.m. And go lobby and then come back and go to work. That really speaks volumes about you. So thank you for that.
I got one other comment, and maybe you can get the word back to them, but I've attended or listened to 3 webinars now, I believe it is. And maybe I'm doing it wrong, but all I do is listen. I can't communicate back.
Sure.
But I wish somebody would tell them that they're doing a fantastic job. I think there's one coming up again this Wednesday, I believe. But, anyways, they're doing a good job. And at first they started out this last one, I thought, well, that's going to be a repeat of one we had before, but it definitely got off on a new and very learning experience. So.
And are you on your phone a lot when you're doing these webinars? Are you on your phone or are you on the computer?
I finally went and got earbuds. I do it on my phone. Yeah.
Okay, because I think if you're on your laptop, then there is a way for you to type in a
On the
question.
right hand.
I don't really care if I talk to them. I just want to listen to somebody else got to say.
Yeah.
But you can type in.
So I got a set of earbuds and I can do whatever I want to do and be listening.
Yeah.
Works good.
You're in the learning experience mode when you're watching and
Yes.
listening to those, and that's what's important. So, moving on to agenda item 5, the teacher leadership and compensation presentation. And I don't think we have Mr. Johnson here, but we have a substitute, Mrs. DeVore.
All right. I'm going to just talk for a few minutes about the teacher leadership compensation package. You'll see later on in the board agenda, you have some names to approve for that tonight. The teacher leadership compensation system in the state of Iowa was designed to reward effective teachers with leadership opportunities and higher pay, and to foster greater collaboration for all teachers to learn from one another. Basically, it boils down to the fact that improving student learning requires improving the instruction that they receive each day. And there's no better way for us to do that than to empower our best teachers to lead the effort. So in December, we were notified that the Charles City Community School District had been awarded the Teacher Leadership and Compensation Grant. We had a team of 12 teachers and administrators working throughout 2015, including the summer months, to write the grant. It had been submitted in October. It had been broken down into 10 very distinct sections. And the gist of the grant was that it provided for 4 instructional coaches. These are teachers who will work as colleagues with their classroom teachers to impact student learning. They will no longer have roles as classroom teachers. They will work strictly with other teachers as a support system for them, focusing on individual and group professional development, and as well as implementation of effective instructional practices. Their main role will be to observe in the classroom, to model effective instructional practices, and then to provide feedback for teachers as well on quality instructional practices. So you'll see those 4 positions tonight. We also have 1.5 success coach positions that you'll see tonight. The success coaches, their role will be to implement and facilitate MTSS, which is one of those acronyms we throw around in education. Is multi-tiered systems of support. So helping our teachers use data to look at what's going on in their classroom. They will also have a strong role in our PBIS effort. They'll look to provide parent resources for social, emotional, and academic support, and then also look to increase community and parent involvement. These 2 positions are actually 1.5 positions. We'll have a full-time K-4 success coach, and then a part-time 5-8 success coach. So the elementary success coach will have no teaching responsibilities, will act as a support system for elementary teachers. That 5-8 success coach will have part-time. Part of her day will be spent as a success coach, and part of her day will be spent as a teacher. And that's how that will break down. Those are the positions that you'll see on the agenda for approval tonight. We will also then be looking to add to our teacher leadership opportunities by having 14 model teachers. These are teachers who will stay in the classroom, but they will be experienced teachers who have expertise in areas that we've identified as need areas for the district. They will be those teachers that our instructional coaches will go to and say, hey, I need somebody to come in and observe you doing a lesson using this strategy, or things along those lines. Maybe through modeling or through co-teaching, can you come in and teach with a teacher on this, or even collaboration in planning. So later, as we get in further into this process, we'll be looking to fill 14 of those positions for the district. So that's a great opportunity for even more of our teachers to jump into some leadership roles. We will also additionally be looking to get hire beginning teacher mentors. So these would be experienced teachers who would mentor our brand new teachers coming right out of the teacher prep programs. And then we'd also be looking to hire veteran teacher mentors. And these would be people who would, experienced teachers who would be mentoring teachers who are new to our district but not necessarily new to the profession. So that's just kind of a very quick picture of what the teacher leadership compensation package might look or will look like here in Charles City. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I would call on the other people of the administrative team to help answer any of those.
I have a question on these TLC instructional coaches.
Yes.
Do they get a certain type of professional development to aid them in this new responsibility?
We currently have it set up so that they will have 10 days outside of their contract that we will look at specifically at professional development. We are currently looking at a couple of different models in terms of training to provide our instructional coaches and our success coaches. The AEA will be a big support system for us in this because it is a statewide initiative. They have been gearing up for this, knowing that there are going to be a number of districts needing that type of support. So that will definitely be a part of what we look to do.
Very good.
And as you stated, this is a grant,
Correct.
and what happens in the next year? Is there grant money again? Does it-
The way the grant is set up by the legislature, and Dr. Cox, you can help me if I make sure I'm getting this right, they have put this grant into the funding equation. And so it is essentially continuous until there's not a sunset to the grant at this point.
So it's a grant in year one only, and then it rolls into the state funding formula, and it's just part of our annual allotment until such a time as the legislature passes a new law to take it out. So it can't just be easily gotten rid of. They would have to enact legislation to make that change.
I think it's important to discuss that since we're looking at budget cuts at this time, and here we are adding additional expenses to it, but we need to understand that this money is not coming from that pot of money again. We're looking at a different source for the funds for this.
Yeah, it's part of that $150 million push that the governor's been talking about.
There's actually a way of increasing our 2 to 2.5%. What do you call it?
Supplemental spending?
Yeah, actually, it's a way to help that along too, isn't it? I mean, because,
In year one only.
yeah, in year one only, but then
Right.
after that, okay, but it'll still be, if it's continuing and continues on, it'll still be a bonus to it. Or will that be deducted from our
Right.
2 or 2.5?
Yes.
Okay, it will be.
Yeah.
The other question I ask is there a state standards that these teachers will, or will we be able as a district set what we want as, say, checks and balances, what we're looking at, or is there checks and balances by the state?
The grant writing team put together the plan about what type of coaching system we felt would be the best fit for Charles City. There are standards in terms of teacher leadership positions that we'll be looking at and considering use of those in terms of evaluating the coaching models. But we do have a lot of flexibility in terms of how is the coaching process going to work for us in Charles City.
Well, does this affect, is this gonna have use from K through 12, or is it just middle school or high school, or the whole
The
school
4
system?
instructional coaches were listed in the grant as 1 per building. That just seemed to make sense in terms of how to do that. We feel like once these 4 individuals kind of get their feet and jump into the job, they may find that their expertise lines up differently. And so they are going to have some flexibility to say, oh, really our needs are stronger over here. So while the grant initially says 1 per building and we'll kind of start with that framework, we realize that there's going to be some flexibility in how that works. Similarly, with the success coach positions, the full-time position is listed as a K-4 position. The part-time position is listed as a 5-8 position. There's nothing to say that, as we get into the new building, which would be a 5-12 complex, that success coach position might not expand to look at 5-12, or if there are supports that 5-8 person needs from the K-4, there's going to be flexibility to work with that.
Super.
Are there measurable outcomes then for each of these positions that we have to justify to the state? Are there reporting? How are we going to say this position is successful, needs tweaking? What kinds of, is that a gut feeling thing? Are there measurable things that go with that? Is it, and like I said, are there requirements of the grant to report to the state that we're doing things the way they're supposed to be, or?
There's an evaluation process written into the grant. I don't know that we have to report that status back to the state. My recollection, it was only meant to be for our own use. Okay. But yeah, there are, just like teachers and administrators get evaluated, there's an evaluation process for these coaching positions as well.
Okay.
And they're one-year positions, and they're not a continuous contract.
Oh.
So either the employee or the district can determine they want to make a change in that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to add one thing about this whole process of interviewing for the TLC, and a couple personal comments and one comment from a teacher I was with. We really, I think, have a real strength here, and it was the teachers that we interviewed. There was 13 people we interviewed. We started from a position of strength, and we have some quality people in these positions now. So that's, again, very gratifying. The whole process was laid out and very clear. The TLC team did a fantastic job of building the grant and getting everything done. It was real easy just to move in and complete the process the last few days. And I think the most gratifying comment that I heard was one of the teachers. We had a teachers committee that interviewed and the administrators. It was 2 separate interviews. And one of the teachers said, it is so exciting and gratifying for them to hear what all these other teachers are doing in their classrooms. And these aren't people that we're interviewing from other communities for a job here. These are all the people that we have here in our community, in our district, and they're doing, the comment was, I'm just amazed at all the things that our teachers are doing in our buildings. So I just wanted to pass that along as we're working from a real position of strength here. And it was a fantastic process, so great job for the TLC team. And the teachers that were part of the interview process did a great job, and we're using our teachers. It's awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Gable. Moving on to agenda item 6 would be the Science Teachers Conference. And if memory serves, this has been postponed at least once.
At least once, yeah.
Twice.
Yeah, we thought we were beginning to jinx the Monday nights here.
Well, the weather hasn't cooperated lately, so we're glad that you were able to join us.
All right, so do you guys want to join me or have a seat there? And whatever you're comfortable with. Okay, so we attended the National Science Standard Conference in Kansas City, and we just want to talk a little bit about why we went, what we learned there, and the benefits of it. So basically kind of the background and why the Iowa Science Standards kind of took an overhaul this last year, and has been for some time, but recently in August they adopted the performance expectation component of the next gen. You've probably heard the word next gen. And they adopted the performance expectation of that in August. And so that's meant a lot of new things for us. And hats off to our secondary staff who have been pushing forward very quickly with this. And so that was another reason we really wanted to just get aligned K-12. And this gave us a great opportunity. They're going to talk a little bit about the van ride, which was a really important piece to it. But one thing that you're going to hear a lot of are these 3D, or the 3 dimensions, and you'll see practices, I don't know if you can see it very well, but practices, content, and cross-cutting. And those really are kind of the cornerstones of the Iowa Science Standards. And so we wanted to go and learn a little bit more about that. And then this also gives you a little bit of an implementation table for the next gen. Right now we're in the awareness stage. And continues a little bit into next year, but we have a lot more smaller transitions to make next year. And this is all coming from the state with our help of AEA. And then 17-18, that's really when we're going to look at leveraging materials and resources and getting together on what we need. And then 18-19 is full implementation, with an exception of middle school at 1 grade level. Is that right? I think middle school has to just do 1 grade level. Is that right?
Middle school is, everyone in the state of Iowa will be doing an integrated science approach. So for those school districts that currently do a year of life, a year of earth, a year of physical science, their rollout process will take longer as they transition 1 grade level at a time to avoid a loss of content over that time. So we have longer. We won't need that much time here because we've always been integrated.
Which is great. So I'll let the teachers talk a little bit. We're going to just break it down by buildings and grade levels here a little bit. But a consistent message and theme you're going to hear throughout is the effort behind the interdisciplinary pieces to it. So I'll let Diane talk about the elementary, but I want to talk just one little thing about that. I went to a really cool session on a bird sleuth program, and I don't know if Diane, you're going to talk about your bird unit or not, but it was a really neat PBL project. The students at this school figured out and did a lot of different action research of why their birds weren't coming to their feeder, and just built a whole environment or habitat for the birds. Figured out why the birds were crashing into the window and why they weren't, and learned about the flight of the birds. It was an amazing PBL project, and I think that was a 4th grade classroom, I think is what that one was, but got me really inspired with some ideas about birds. So I know Diane does a wonderful unit around that too, but I want to talk a little bit about elementary.
No, we're good. So for elementary, I went to a variety of different sessions, and the one thing that was kind of a focus on all of them is using the 5E model, which is engage, explore, explain, extend, or elaborate, and evaluate. And I think a lot of our elementary, grade 4 and under, do a lot of the engage and explore, but we don't move them to those other 3 areas. And so that, I think, would be one of the focuses, to have us start moving our kids towards that by using literacy videos, providing activities for them to explore that. And I am in the middle of my bird unit. And so we did do some activities which follows the 5E model, where we focused on beak structure, because that ties right to the NGS standard of structure and function. And so they were doing like a sanderling, and they had to probe in a tundra atmosphere as well as a shore. And then they do a lot of claims and evidence. So why does that beak allow them to survive in both those habitats? Then we moved on to wing structure, because that's part of our activity too. So we made model paper airplanes, and so that's also very engaging, but we also added that whole explanation and extension, and so they had to explain why their paper airplane had the flight pattern it did, and then they had to go to their own bird, and they're going to tie that to how that bird is able to survive and why those flight patterns are important to those birds. So that's what we've done. We've also used a lot of nonfiction and a lot of those things to guide students. And our literacy focus, a lot of it is questioning, having students question while they're reading, during their reading, and after they're reading. And that same focus is in science. We want kids to be inquisitive and inquiry, not just hands-on, because those are 2 different things. I can give them an experiment to do out of a book and tell them how to do it. That's hands-on. I want them to figure out how they're going to do it. That's more inquiry. So after our bird unit, then we do an egg drop one, and they have to figure out how to get the egg to drop in the water without touching the egg using a broom. So that's our next thing. So that's a 5E model. So we have that on, I have that on video, and maybe we can post it sometime. But to get kids to start thinking and to not be afraid of science. You know, some are just afraid that they can't do it, they're not smart enough, and I think they think that you have to be this super smart person to do science, and you don't. You have to ask questions, you know, work hard, push through things, and not give up. And Phoebe can speak to that with her whole, that contest you do, because I had some of those students that won one year, and by no means were they my top science students. But they did awesome. And so I think to let kids know that it doesn't matter where you're at on that continuum, all students can be successful in science and STEM type careers, and we're going to need those people. So that was kind of the elementary thing, to push that inquiry focus.
For middle school, I would actually say that Julie and I have been also really looking at a greater implementation of the 5E model. It's a really nice fit to get kids to think about, okay, how can I learn more? How can I extend my learning on this? And then really to focus on the inquiry as well. You know, students, when it gets tough, sometimes kind of want to give up. I can't figure it out. I don't know how. And I think that 5E helps to foster creative thinking within the sciences. Oftentimes, I think that students feel that creativity is only for the arts and that it's not for science, and that is to their detriment. Really what we, I think, focused on was a practical implementation of NGSS. What are things that we can take back and to begin to use immediately? So one of the sessions we went to was the King Arthur flower session, which I think everybody's like, why is it so interesting to talk about stinking flour? But it was really cool. You know, we talked about how could we have students bake bread, and what could we do with that in science, in FCS, and as community service as well through the King Arthur program. The bioplastics session that I went to was great and tied right in with an NGSS standard, and my students made plastic. They made stinking plastic in class. So, you know, fire alarm aside, it was awesome. It was only 2, and there was actually no smoke in my room. It was really clear. Faulty system, not my fault.
Scientists would have figured that out.
Yeah, go for it.
I was kind of at a weird place because I'm elementary this year and middle school next year, and so I was like trying to find a balance. But probably my favorite session was one about a school in Missouri, and it's a STEAM school, and their 6th grade curriculum is pretty much all focused around this greenhouse that they have, and so they have a greenhouse. Yes, please. Sorry for the distraction. Have the greenhouse, and then the students run it, and they've got different jobs. So they plant it, and they do all that work and get the. They grow it, and then they sell it at a farmer's market. And they've also used pieces to make chapstick now. They've used different things to kind of do that, and they sell that at the farmer's market too. And they're trying to make it kind of a community, like, ongoing thing. But it was nice to kind of make connections, and it kind of ties into the last one, with other schools who are doing these big PBL projects, or PBL-like, and kind of make connections, say, how did you do this? How did you get it going? What was, like, your driving question? And kind of our focus, or at least mine, was how can you get math to fit in with this? Because a lot of our professional development, we've been talking about, you know, science and language arts and reading and social studies, but then the math aspect seems to be a little bit lost. So asking them, how do you tie in these concepts with kind of your science stuff? And after I went, kind of the last part there, 5th grade, our NGSS are going to kind of drive our PBLs last year. I went to a lot of sessions which talked about how you can integrate the reading and stuff within your science lesson, and different ways you can use different types of level text and things. So those are going to kind of drive our driving questions that we create for the group next year. And the 5th grade team's all on board with that, so that was exciting. But that's kind of, we're going to kind of create about 5 huge essential questions, and then kind of have those drive what we do.
Someone want to talk about the picture?
Oh,
yeah, the picture.
Oh. We went, I don't remember the name of the session, but we were given 1 file folder, 60 inches of Scotch tape, and the goal was to build the tallest tower. And we did. So we rocked that, building that tower. So that's just a thing of having students do hands-on types or inquiry type activities, and giving them a problem and having them figure it out and work together to solve it. One team did something that wasn't quite kosher, so we
Yes, we took a picture. It was. We took a picture to prove that we won without cheating.
Yeah.
And we all pointed to the other team and called them cheaters because it was a room full of elementary and middle school teachers.
Yes, we do. So yeah.
Teachers are competitive.
Just a little.
I'm very loud, so I'm good to go. I'm Donna Forsyth, and this is Steph Herbal, and sometimes we just assume that you guys know what everybody teaches and where we're at. So one of the things Steph and I both teach biology. That's one of the courses that we teach. And so something that we're always working on is making sure that if students change from my class to her class or vice versa, first trimester to second trimester or on to third trimester, that we end and we start at the same spot, that we're assessing kids the same. That if I gave them an assessment and then Steph gave them an assessment, ultimately the grade would be the same, the score would be the same. So we've been talking a lot about what we're doing, and so I just wanted to let you guys know that actually when we left at about 3:45 in the afternoon, our science conference began. So our van was full of Mr. Gable and then the 2 middle school teachers, so Phoebe and Julie, and then myself and Steph. That was everybody in ours, right? And so we immediately began talking about, okay, we're going to be on a single campus next year. How is that going to work? We talked about who's endorsed in what areas. Is there some switching that could go on to meet the needs of students? So one of the things that Mr. Gable obviously is always very well aware of is that the science department is willing to make changes if necessary to offer the most available opportunities for kids. So we just appreciated that and really had a good time on that trip down. We talked about that single campus. Again, we talked about course offerings. What do we have right now? And again, PBL and standards-based grading. So it started in the van ride.
And it just really continued once we got there. Just to show you, we have 13 plus different sessions plus networking. In all honesty, we spent the whole van ride down going through printouts of what could we go through. And we actually really had to pick and choose. There were 2 or 3 sessions at a time that we really wanted to be able to attend. So it came down to, well, why don't you go to this one and I'll go to this one, and we can meet up and we'll share out later this evening. Lots of discussions on the NGSS as well as STEM and SBG. Lots of lab opportunities. I was able to attend one that was a zombies apocalypse kind of microbiology. Several different ones that went on there, so great opportunities for us, great conversations.
So you never know until you get in there if it's going to be a great one or if it's going to be mediocre. So I just happened to pick actually the one that I enjoyed the most was my very first one, so it got me excited. But it was basically stimulating student learning with food. That's a great spot to start, always. And so everything that they were talking about, I built a couple relationships with some people that are actually offering something else that I can sign up for and go out to Washington, and it's paid for, and you get all these materials and everything else. So I immediately contacted Mrs. Lumberg because third trimester we're going to offer for the first time a culinary science, and we're going to team teach a class. So I brought a lot of that material back, and she said, I'm in. It's at fair, so that's a decision I have to make because Max is last year at fair, so it's right at that same time, so we haven't completely committed, but it's that networking and finding out about all these other opportunities beyond the conference that you get as well.
One of my favorites that I went to is actually an anatomy and clay. I teach that human anatomy class. Really showed and related to that STEM that we're looking at bringing in our district, as well as hand-on opportunities for students to learn more information and structures of the human body. So a great place to be, looking at some current equipment that we already have that maybe I could modify and be able to do the same type of concept with that.
Let's see, what do we have there? Okay, so again, we were just talking about constantly, here's what we currently teach. And the science department's awesome. We really appreciate the Wednesday mornings that we have because our group always gets together and that's what we're talking about. We always spend some time together even if we branch out then. So at the high school level, currently we have physical science, biology, and then chemistry, applied science. So we're trying to get those next generation science standards for all students that have to be covered. So we're meeting the state requirements as well. So it's just a constant, I hate to say it, but it's a battle because there's so much information to cover in a short amount of time, and you want to do it with enough depth that they're walking away with some information as well. So it's just interesting to have that conversation and talk. And then there was no time for lunch, like there was no specific break, and so you would look at the next one and and I know I can speak with those guys as well, you almost had to be willing to give something up to go get something to eat. And that was a battle because you just didn't want to miss out on anything. And so we got a lot from start to finish.
Or you took your lunch with you to the next session. And just ending with our van ride home, it goes back, we had more discussion about our curriculum that we have in place and what we can do to change, because currently right now, we've been doing the same thing for over 45 years. So what can we do to make that better? It really did reinforce the efforts that we had going on within our science department to make changes for what's best for our students, and that we're actually ahead. Many of my conversations, I attended one with a Kansas City school district, and I would say we were even ahead of the curve. They're working on implementing and created units. They're still just on the implementation, but with no assessment, so they don't have a true assessment with that. And we're working on implementing that, as well as the standards-based grading and correlating with that.
I hate to be the broken record, but I stood here a couple minutes ago and said what a great staff we were working with, but you get a flavor of that again here with their assignment. It makes it easy on some days to come to work with them, but they're always pushing, they want to do more, and that's why I said easy some days. They're challenging too, they want to do things better. I think the comment in the van was, we're good. And they qualified with how are we going to do it better. That's the part that I really liked, that really caught my ear. But where have we been going since we got home? We've had, like you heard specifically Donna and Phoebe talk about, we need to deliver those NGSS standards to the elementary teachers. Elementary teachers, they teach standards to all subjects. We have specialized content area in the secondary. So they're more familiar with those standards. They need to help deliver those. They will deliver those. They're ready to do that. They've met with the administration, with Kara and Marcia from the two elementaries, and they've got that set up for a couple of sessions on our Wednesday mornings in March. They'll be taking care of that. And I think they're going to do it cross-curricular style. Is it literacy? Through their literacy programs and more reading for the students, they'll be breaking down those standards and getting science content to the elementary students. The network sessions with the AEA, that's very interesting. Our teachers have been on the forefront of the meetings that they've had there, and I think what I've heard is the AEA has been contacting these people to say, are you going to come lead and facilitate some of our sessions? And host it. So great comment, thanks. And then we've got elementary teachers attending a 4-day session in June. Not always an easy thing to do in June, but again, we've got teachers that are dedicated to do that. How are we able to do all this? Through our teacher quality funds. So that's a big appreciative. We appreciate being able to use those funds. It paid for basically everything that we have down there. And again, my summary is of the whole event was I'm of the 4 content areas. I was probably like what Diane was talking about. I was one that wasn't always real successful in science. That'd be maybe the 4th one I would have chosen. But real easy to get involved with science with these people. But so I went with a big broad-based perspective to this convention. And it was a science convention, but it was definitely more about the science of teaching. If you really didn't know that it was a science convention, you may have trouble understanding it, because the pedagogy that they were teaching, the concepts, the ideas, I mean, it was all encompassing. Doesn't matter what subject, what content you were teaching, this was about how to instruct students. And I just want to tell you once again, you maybe have heard it too many times, but that's fine. We're on the right track. The things that people are doing in Kansas City, which would lead to other places too, those things that they're preaching with project-based learning opportunities and cross-curricular opportunities, that's what they're preaching, and that's where we're going, and it's working. So again, we have a fantastic dedicated science team. We appreciated the opportunity to be able to go to Kansas City for that event.
Questions?
We heard from the math conference folks that went to Minneapolis about the van ride as well. I'm nearly convinced that we just need to put our staff in a van and drive around.
I was going to say the same thing,
Professional
Jason,
development
yeah.
on Wednesday will become Sunday afternoon drives.
We have to buy some new vans. But, no, the several points, I mean, the one that stuck out, obviously, like you were saying, where the example where you had a lesson that you taught in a different way than maybe one that you've done previously with the egg, and the one that the students that excelled at that one are the ones that maybe were you didn't consider them to be your highest achieving previously. That is something that brought students up, to a higher level, and recognizing that and implementing more of those kinds of things in our district is a great step forward, I think. So that's how I learned, and I have great appreciation for those kinds of things. So thank
I
you.
want to say thank you, because what I see is teachers that are excited to learn. And to me, and an educator that's excited to learn, and is a teacher that's going to inspire a student to learn. When you become tired of educating, you've probably lost your effectiveness. We definitely haven't lost our effectiveness with you. You're exciting. It's exciting to listen to you. You're passionate, and I thank you so much for everything you're doing. We hear it too when we go to conventions, that we've got some on fire staff, and we should be very proud of the staff we have.
Robbie, you'd be pleased to know art and science was probably my best session I went to, and I drew a hand, and it was almost good, okay? Almost good.
That was an awesome
It was.
session. It was awesome.
And I have to tell Tail, I was actually better in math in school than I was in art, but that's one.
Very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing everything. Good job. I'm really excited to see what happens in the future, and that piece with cooking and science really does sound very interesting.
We want to apologize to you again for having you delayed several times, but thank you for making the trip up to Cowell and joining us. It appears that, again, we're in the right direction, and we look forward to seeing your successes in the classroom in the future. Thank you.
Some of us are going to head off to the basketball game, so go.
Good luck. True love.
Thank you.
Agenda item 7 is furniture, fixtures, and equipment quote. The Buildings and Grounds Committee has met, and we have a document that was handed out to us this evening. You going to talk about that then, Dr. Cox?
Well, we had a question about the FF&E quote and the numbers in the budget, and did they represent the amount that you're seeing here today? And the basic answer is yes. If the board was interested in doing a lesser amount than what is recommended here in the agenda, then the handout that you have in front of you puts it into one larger package of $670,000 roughly, and a second one of just over $70,000. So
All things given and on the correct path with the budget, I think we confirmed would cover this entire page.
right.
But I guess, so what we're seeing now is that if there were unforeseen something, then.
If you have any hesitation about doing all $742,000 tonight, then the recommendation would be do that first big chunk for $672,000. Let's get that ordered and on the way, or get it fabricated. And then with that second bit, those are things that could come later. If you want to wait and see for another couple of weeks, what are the numbers looking like? And if you're ready to just do it all, then you have that option as well.
Well, there was discussion in the Buildings and Grounds meeting that if we compare this number to what our original number was way back, if we looked at our original numbers, I think we're at 450, and now we're a considerable amount more, but yet we're still on budget. And Jean described that as there's a lot of things that they've been able to either do differently or have come down, and so we're taking money from other areas that have allowed us to expand in this furniture, fixture, and equipment budget, and so it's allowed us to take this budget up to where it is now.
They also had more money set aside for things like security and some other things that have been shifted in the budget. So from her point and Estes' point is the total amount of money that was there to do all of the things that we're looking at, that it should be fine.
And I feel comfortable in going ahead with the total amount. They have their finger, I feel like, on the pulse of what's going on, and I don't think they would have recommended or given us this amount if it was possible.
Justin?
And we also had discussion, I think they're continuing to refine the budget and where things are at, specifically in regards to the contingency, what number is, where is that? And there was still a high level of confidence that there is a general adequate amount of contingency left continuing on with the project, and this didn't eat into any of that, in my understanding.
So Buildings and Grounds feels confident in approving the entire page? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Do you guys have any questions or comments?
No, I had talked with Robin a little bit beforehand. Or no, Jason, I talked to Jason about this, and so no, I think that if they're comfortable and have been looking at the numbers to go ahead with the whole amount, I trust their opinion.
And the FF&E committee, right, had been through the process of
Yes.
generating this list that was put out for bids essentially, right?
Yes.
We had questioned, whether we should go out for bid and bid this, to a number of different contractors, but Gina described the process and, in which, has been described to us in an email too, that, they're buying a whole lot of equipment, not just our school, but everybody else. And so, we get some value pricing. So I think that, Estes and BLDD, got a great synergy that's been working well for us.
And just for review, who all made up the Furniture, Fixture, and Equipment Committee?
Well, Robin
like
and I,
10 people.
Dan,
Teachers, staff.
Teachers, staff,
maybe
a few students.
teachers,
Students.
Okay,
yeah,
Jerry.
students.
just for review, I mean,
A lot of teacher input, a lot of student input,
Yeah,
and picking out recommended pieces of furniture and saying yay and nay
okay.
to certain pieces.
mhm.
Asking for this type of furniture and preferences on this number of this type of furniture, areas that furniture would be used in. So yeah, I feel like this has been vetted really well with what is being proposed for us to buy.
I believe so too, because we also pushed back a bit on the first proposal, and it said, not quite what we had in mind, we need something better. And they did, because our goals were to get something that was flexible and would be, all the furniture would be something that would be comfortable as well for the students, but the flexibility being very key.
It would fit in with our wow factor.
Yes.
We weren't looking at the same old stackable chairs that we have now. We wanted something that fit in with the overall concept that we've got going. We've got a new way of educating all the way down to the type of furniture we're going to be using. I think it's an important element to what we're trying to achieve.
And I think it's important to bring that up again, to reiterate, we're not looking at purchasing furniture that the architects have recommended. We're not looking at purchasing furniture and equipment that administrators are recommending. We've incorporated faculty, staff, and students into this entire process, much like we did in the design of the building. It's a community project of everyone that will be utilizing that space, rather than just saying, oh, I'm an architect and this is the furniture you need. So
Yeah.
that's important,
And some
that
of
we
these-
continue that process.
Absolutely, Scott. And some of these things that we're incorporating into the school are cutting edge. Some of these steel case pieces, the Node, which is that chair that we all saw. We saw it during the prototype period. We also saw it again at the convention. It's that chair that rocks and moves and spins
uses a
and
desk, but
rolls
you have
and
to roll
has
it
a
to a table.
desktop and, the kids love that thing. And for those kids that need to move to focus, they're gonna be great in those chairs.
One final note I wanted to make about this vendors list is I was impressed at, we're not buying from one. They really have done and had to look far and wide, obviously, to find everything that we've requested. But we're also buying from places as close as Waverly and Mason City and Waterloo. So we are using a lot of local vendors with this too. Things aren't just coming across the country or from the West Coast or from the East Coast.
Are you ready for a motion?
I make a motion to approve furniture, fixture, and equipment bid tabulation from the middle school edition, for the middle school edition project, and the corresponding membership registrations to vendors.
Second that.
Agenda item 7 has been moved and seconded as presented. Any further comments or discussion from the board?
So we're approving the whole thing, not in phases.
Correct.
742, 318.
Any comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, we'll have roll call vote, please.
Maycumber,
Yes.
Winery,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Frisbee,
Yes.
Dyke.
Yes. Motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 8, the China partnership.
Just
Dr. Cox.
a quick update that we're moving forward with Tom Pinkham with IEMC. He just this afternoon sent, or this morning sent the contracts that I still need to review and then have our attorney review again. But we're making progress. The Chinese school year is beginning, and so he, on his end, is starting to, really speak with students and parents and families about opportunities to come. And it's not just here. Mason City is the big host school, and then there are some other schools across eastern and northern Iowa, but really talking up the opportunity for those students to get interested in making this come true. So I would anticipate by the 21st of March, our next board meeting, that we should have something before you to approve.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for keeping us up to date. Agenda item 9, student technology request for proposal. You have that one too.
We're switching, or the recommendation is to switch to Chromebooks as our laptop devices. If money allows, it would be for grades 3 through 12, not just 5 through 12. And you've got the RFP as part of your board packet tonight that will be sent out. And the purchase will be paid for with a combination of the instructional support levy and the physical plant and equipment levy funds.
And this is money that we've been setting aside, Mrs. O'Brien, for several years in anticipation of our laptops reaching their life expectancy, correct?
Right. The Pebble piece we've been setting aside, and ISL has also been budgeted as part of the building's ISL budgets.
Okay.
In the short amount of time I've been on the board, I've had several comments or concerns about the costs essentially of the MacBooks and the, whether it's a charger or whatever. So I think that this is maybe a move in the right direction to help fix some of those problems that we've been having. I hope that we have the 3 through 12 thing. I hope, we're able to get to that. What I've learned with my youngest son is 3.5 years old and is extremely proficient on an iPad. So these kids are getting technology at such young ages that if we're not utilizing it at those younger and younger ages in our schools, we're going to be behind to them when they get to us. So the younger we can get with different opportunities, the better. So.
Well, I'll echo your first part there with the cost factor. Shortly after we got on the board and we were looking at the monthly bills, and the MacBooks are running an average of $400 a piece every time we repair something, and I can buy a brand new Chromebook for $300. It just didn't seem like we were in the right direction as far as spending the money goes. So it'll be interesting to see this transition, and we probably have a good person at the high school to assist with that transition, since Mr. Johnson had instituted MacBooks in a previous district, correct?
Chromebooks.
Or Chromebooks, I mean, yes, right?
I don't remember if he did or didn't. I just know he's
He did, and he actually,
very fond of
I believe he
Google
actually had
Docs.
some presentations to different schools on that subject. That was his expertise, one of his expertise.
Yeah, that's
my
what I
question-
remember, too.
And I had a question in regards to, since the Chromebook is a cloud-based system, how will we advise the students that do not have internet in their home?
Did you know that you can use your Chromebook offline? You can write emails. Gmail Offline is built to support offline access, allowing email to be read, responded to, searched, archived without network access. You can view your appointments. You can view, create, and edit documents. The Google Drive app lets you do that. You can view and edit photos. You can listen to music. You can watch videos. You can view Microsoft Office and Adobe PDF files. You can take notes. You can read offline web pages, use other apps, and play games like Angry Birds. Sweet. All offline. So,
Thank you.
Chromebooks will have a minimum of 16, and this is from April Hansen, our technology director. They'll have a minimum of 16 gigabytes available for offline use. You can do all those things that I just talked about. The email or document that you're working on won't send or it won't share until you're, connected again. But once you get connected, then it automatically does that. And students can proactively visit and save web pages for offline viewing while at school if they need to have access to them at home. So I'll give you.
Not to mention there's access at several businesses, libraries.
I think these Chromebooks are a good move. I'm excited to see that we'll have those in place. And wish they would have been around when we bought all of those laptops in the first place. I think if we had waited, gosh, maybe 6 months or a year, then they were around.
So
I had one question here. I don't see in this RFP anything that describes that we're looking or seeking to include some sort of a bag or a carry case. Or does that just, is that assumed that that comes in a carry case?
We talked about those carry cases, so let me ask Rick. The cases that we talked about for the Chromebooks,
Yes,
were those being purchased separately or?
that was part of the package. The license, the Chromebook, and the case came as a unit. I don't remember the price.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe we should include that or spell it out.
But has it been 2 years that we've been using the Chromebooks as a board? Is it 2 years or are we 3 years?
I think it's 2 years we've had them.
It was right when I got on, so it would have been
Almost two.
almost
Two this summer.
2 this summer, yeah.
I've had several laptops and a desktop, and it is the school's computer, but I by far use it more than my own personal computer because it is such an easy format to work with. It's instant on and off the internet. The battery life is phenomenal. I've been real impressed with it. I'm glad we went with them so that we could see and prove that they do work well.
Ready for a motion?
Move to approve the Chromebook laptop device request for proposal for the replacement of existing laptops for students in grades 3 through 12,
If money allows.
if money allows.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Chromebook laptop device request for proposal for the replacement of existing laptops for students in grades 3 through 12 if money allows. Any further discussion from the board? Any comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, we'll have roll call vote, please.
Wittering,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Frisbee,
Yes.
Maycumber.
Yes.
Dyke.
Yes. Motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 10, the School Budget Review Committee application for modified supplemental amount for dropout prevention programs. Mrs. O'Brien?
Mrs. O'Brien.
The application is for mainly the same programs that we have funded with the at-risk money in the past. There is a slight change in the intervention room and the CCAP program being kind of combined into the Success Center, but still the same type of positions that are going to be funded with it. It is a new application this year. right now, they were delayed in getting the application out. And so their review process was late. We had a problem with one of the programs in there. So this is the amount for all of our programs. We may have to come back later if we can't get this figured out with the state to adjust the amount. But yeah, we've had an at-risk program every year. This is about the same amount that we've approved in the past, actually a little bit less.
Motion to approve the resolution authorizing the request for modified supplemental amount for dropout prevention in the amount of $368,182 as recommended.
I'll second that.
Agenda item 10 has been moved and seconded as presented. Any questions or comments from board members? Any comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, we'll have roll call vote, please.
Walker?
Yes.
Frisbee?
Yes.
Maycumber?
Yes.
Wintering?
Yes.
Dyke?
Yes, motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 11, the early retirement applications and resignations. Appears we've had 2 of them apply.
We have had 2. Nina Colson, who's our school counselor at Washington, Judy Kielman, Title I teacher at Washington, both with 27 years of experience in Charles City.
In Charleston.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's not crazy. That's honorable. That's very, thank you.
Yeah. Want a motion?
Yes.
Okay, move to accept the applications and resignations for early retirement as recommended.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the applications and resignations for early retirement as recommended. Any comments or questions from the public, or through the board? And then from the public?
We just want to thank them for their service. And Judy Kielman didn't know to be here tonight or not. She kind of wanted to be here, but due to health issues, she just wanted to make a public comment and thank you for her time here as well. And she relayed to me, she figured out she has taught every single grade. Or worked with at least every single grade of students. Maybe not taught, but even all the way to K-12. So she wanted to share that with you as well. We thank them both for our service.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, we definitely want to thank them for their years of service to our district and the children in their profession. We'll have roll call vote, please.
Frisbee?
Yes.
Maycumber?
Yes.
Wintering?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Dyke?
Yes, motion carried 5-0. Agenda item 12, the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items as listed below.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Roll call vote, please.
Maycumber?
Yes.
Wintering?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Frisbee?
Yes.
Dyke?
Yes, motion carried 5-0. Correspondence and miscellaneous. Do we have anything extra?
Nothing for that.
Okay. Important upcoming dates.
We have district individual speech contest this coming Saturday at North Butler High School. Our Comet Cafe students will be in action at the Pro Start Invitational at the Iowa Event Center next Tuesday, March 1st. We've got spring break coming up in less than 3 weeks, and our next regular board meeting will be March the 21st.
I had one quick addition. I had a teacher ask me about March 2nd, I believe, Read Across America, and looking for volunteers to come in and read to the kids, I think. So if there's an interest, then I would pass that along as well. So.
And this Wednesday is our exchange
Right.
for our initial proposal to the associations.
Okay.
Having no other business to come before the board, we will adjourn. Thank you very much.